The morning sun had barely broken through the clouds when destiny took a sharp turn on a lonely stretch of highway. A black man in a crisp suit was racing to an interview that could change his life. But fate had another plan. A screech of tires, a crash. A biker sprawled across the asphalt, blood mixing with dust and rain. He could have driven past. He could have saved himself. Instead, he chose compassion. But that single act of kindness would cost him everything, until the day it all came full circle in a way no one could have imagined. Marcus. Evans had spent months preparing for this one interview, a regional manager position at a logistics firm that promised stability, respect, and a future he'd fought hard to earn. Every pressed shirt, every late-night resume tweak, every bus ride to job fairs had led to this morning. He'd rehearsed his answers, envisioned the handshake, and even practiced his smile in the rearview mirror. The world outside the car window blurred as he drove along the quiet back-road shortcut, his heart beating with nervous excitement. He'd always believed that if he just worked harder, stayed honest, and kept his faith, he could outrun the weight of prejudice that had shadowed his life. The road curved gently through golden fields, but then chaos shattered the calm. A motorcycle lay twisted at the bend, smoke rising like a warning. The rider, a white man in a torn leather jacket, lay motionless, blood darkening the gravel. Marcus slammed on the brakes. For a brief, trembling second, he hesitated. He knew the statistics, the risks, the unspoken fear that helping could somehow turn against him, but conscience overpowered caution. He grabbed his phone, called 911, and rushed to the man's side, pressing his jacket against the wound to stop the bleeding. Minutes stretched into eternities as he knelt there, praying the stranger would live. He didn't see the time slipping away, or the chance that was dying with it. By the time the ambulance arrived, his car, his shirt, and his hope were stained with blood. He was a hero no one would ever see, and somewhere across town, an empty chair waited in a corporate office, a silent witness to the opportunity that had just slipped through his fingers. When the ambulance finally pulled away, Marcus stood by the roadside, his hands trembling and his clothes streaked with the biker's blood. The paramedic had told him, "You probably saved his life." But the words barely registered. His phone buzzed in his pocket. 4 missed calls, 1 voicemail. The interview. He jumped into his car, adrenaline surging, and sped toward the city. His thoughts raced faster than the engine. Maybe he could still make it. Maybe they'd understand. Maybe compassion still mattered in a world that often forgot what it meant. But by the time he arrived, the glass doors were locked. The receptionist looked up with polite detachment when he pleaded for a chance to explain. "I'm sorry," she said. "The hiring panel has already left." He stood there in silence, breathing hard, his heart heavier than his soaked suit. That night, Marcus sat in his small apartment, replaying the scene over and over. He'd saved a man's life, yet all he felt was loss. He stared at his reflection, wondering how a single act of kindness could feel like punishment. Days passed. No callbacks, no second chances. Word spread through the local news about a mysterious Good Samaritan who had saved a biker's life. But Marcus's name was never mentioned. He didn't tell anyone. Maybe humility was its own reward. Maybe that was enough, but the bills didn't stop. The rent deadline loomed. His confidence began to crack under the weight of reality. Even friends, though sympathetic, reminded him that the world rarely rewarded sacrifice, especially not for people like him. Then, one evening, as Marcus was scanning online listings in a dimly lit cafe, a group of leather-clad bikers walked in. Their jackets bore the same emblem he'd seen that morning, a skull with silver wings. They filled the room with laughter and noise, but when their leader spotted Marcus, his expression changed. He approached slowly, studying the man whose eyes carried both humility and hurt. "Were you on Highway 16 last week?" the biker asked quietly. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. The man's eyes softened. "You saved one of ours. We've been looking for you." In that instant, the story began to turn, though Marcus didn't yet know how profoundly his life was about to change. The next morning, Marcus woke to a knock at his door. When he opened it, the same biker from the cafe stood there. now clean-shaven, his leather vest replaced by a dark jacket. Behind him, 2 more riders waited, holding a small box wrapped in faded brown paper. "I'm Rick," the man said. "The guy you saved, that was my brother Dale. He's alive because of you." Marcus didn't know what to say. Gratitude flickered in Rick's eyes, mixed with something heavier, the kind of respect born from shared pain. "We wanted to thank you properly," he said, handing over the box. Marcus opened it slowly. Inside was a worn biker patch, the club's insignia, framed beside a thick envelope. At first he thought it was symbolic. Then he saw what was inside, a check. Enough money to cover his bills for months. Enough to breathe again. "I can't take this," Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. Rick shook his head. "You already did more than we could ever repay. The world needs more men like you, and fewer who'd pass by." But the gift wasn't just the money or the patch. Tucked inside was a folded letter from Dale himself, written in shaky handwriting. "I judged people my whole life by the wrong things. Their color, their clothes, their past. But the day I was dying, a man I might have never spoken to was the only one who stopped to help. You didn't just save me. You saved what little good was left in me." Tears welled in Marcus's eyes. He thought of the job interview he'd lost, the future that had slipped away. Yet in that moment, he realized he'd gained something far more powerful: dignity, purpose, and proof that kindness could still cut through the hardest walls. Outside, the bikers started their engines, the roar echoing like a promise that the world hadn't forgotten him after all. Weeks passed, and life began to find its rhythm again. Marcus framed the biker's letter and hung it above his desk, a silent reminder that goodness, though costly, always carries meaning. He took on part-time work, humbler than before but honest, rebuilding with quiet determination. Then one afternoon, as he returned from a shift, a sleek motorcycle parked outside his building caught his eye. The same silver-winged insignia gleamed on the fuel tank. Rick stood beside it, holding a helmet. "This is for you," he said simply. Marcus blinked in disbelief. "I don't ride." "You will," Rick replied with a smile. "It's more than a bike. It's a seat at our table. You're family now." For the first time in months, Marcus laughed, a full, unguarded sound. The Bikers Club had taken him in, offering not just gratitude but brotherhood, respect, and belonging that no corporate title could match. The man who had lost everything in one act of compassion had found something richer, a home built not by contracts or careers, but by humanity. News of the story spread after the club shared it online. Strangers wrote messages calling Marcus a hero, but he never saw himself that way. To him, the real story wasn't about race or debt or luck, it was about choice. The choice to do what's right when no one's watching. Standing by the motorcycle under the amber glow of sunset, Marcus ran his hand along the handlebars, feeling the weight of fate's strange symmetry. Sometimes, life takes away what we think we need to give us what we were meant to find. He started the engine, the roar echoing through the street, a sound of redemption, of second chances, of a man who refused to let bitterness define him, and somewhere in that echo was the truth. Even in a divided world, one act of courage can still bridge the distance between us.